In 1972, a group of credentialed scientists invented a ghost that never existed, gave it a name, a backstory, and a tragic death, then sat around a table and asked it questions. The table answered. They never fully explained what happened next. Neither has anyone else. The Philip experiment was not a ghost story. It was a hypothesis. The Toronto Society for Psychical Research wanted to know whether the human mind, working collectively, could generate something measurable. Not a spirit, not a soul, a thought form. A psychic construct assembled entirely from conscious intention and sustained group belief. The lead researcher, Owen, had a background in psychiatric nursing and a methodical, unsentimental approach to the paranormal. This was not a circle of believers hoping to contact the dead. It was a controlled study designed to produce and document an anomaly under repeatable conditions. The group invented their subject down to the smallest detail. Philip Aylesford was an English aristocrat, born 1624, a supporter of King Charles I, a man tormented by an affair with a Romany woman named Margot. When his wife discovered the relationship, she accused Margot of witchcraft. Philip did nothing. Margot was burned at the stake. Philip, consumed by guilt, threw himself from the battlements of his own estate in 1654. Every element of this biography was fiction, constructed deliberately, documented on paper before the experiment began. Philip had no grave, no portrait, no historical record of any kind. The group knew this. That was the point. For nearly a year, they followed a standard meditation protocol. They visualized Philip, discussed him, reinforced the details of his invented life in structured sessions. Nothing happened. No phenomena, no anomalies, no response from anything. Then Owen consulted the work of British mathematician and parapsychologist Kenneth Batchelor, who argued that paranormal phenomena required a specific social environment to emerge, one defined by relaxed expectation rather than concentrated effort. The group changed their approach entirely. They dimmed the lights, loosened the structure, introduced music and casual conversation. They stopped trying to reach something and simply waited. In 1973, the table moved. Not subtly. It vibrated, tilted, slid across the floor without anyone pushing it. Then came the rapping, a sharp rhythmic knocking from within the table's surface that responded to direct questions. One knock for yes, two for no, consistent across dozens of sessions. When asked about details that contradicted Philip's invented biography, the rapping corrected them in accordance with the fictional record the group had written. The equipment recorded temperature fluctuations and electromagnetic disturbances during the phenomena that could not be attributed to any identified source. The experiment was replicated twice with different groups, different subjects, different invented identities. The results held. No mainstream scientific institution has formally addressed the footage or the data collected. They have simply chosen not to. The group met weekly for nearly a year before anything happened. 8 ordinary people, psychologists, engineers, a housewife, an accountant, sitting around a table in Toronto, talking to a man they had invented from scratch. Philip Aylesford was fictional by design. His biography was fabricated. His portrait was drawn. His affair, his guilt, his suicide, all of it written by committee. The Toronto Society for Psychical Research, led by Owen, was testing a single proposition, that the human mind, under the right conditions, could generate measurable physical phenomena from nothing. No medium, no belief system required. Just focused collective intention aimed at a fiction. That alone should have produced nothing. It didn't. The first contact came not as a voice or a vision, but as a knock. A single rap from the surface of the table. The group asked Philip if that was him. The table knocked again. What followed over subsequent sessions defied the controlled conditions they had carefully constructed. The table didn't just vibrate, it moved laterally across the floor, pulled towards certain participants, retreated from others, and on at least one documented occasion, lifted entirely off the ground in front of multiple witnesses and recording equipment. Owen noted in her reports that the movement pattern appeared responsive, not random. The table behaved as though it was listening. When asked questions with known fabricated answers, details from Philip's invented life, it answered correctly. When asked questions that had never been assigned answers in the original fiction, it sometimes answered anyway. That is where the experiment cracked open into something no one had prepared for. Philip began volunteering information, responses outside the boundaries of his written biography. The group had not given him opinions about certain historical events. He offered them. They had not assigned him preferences. He expressed them. Iris Owen documented her concern carefully and without sensationalism. This was a scientist recording an anomaly, not a believer chasing a ghost. The question she could not answer was straightforward and devastating. If Philip was a thought form created by the group's collective consciousness, why was he exceeding the parameters of that consciousness? Either the group was unconsciously generating information they didn't know they possessed, or something else entirely had attached itself to the Philip construct. Neither explanation was comfortable. Neither was pursued by any institution with the funding to pursue it. The electromagnetic readings compounded everything. Sensors placed in the room during active sessions detected fluctuations that correlated with the table's movement, spikes occurring immediately before physical contact, not during or after. The equipment was registering something anticipatory, a cause preceding the effect by a measurable interval. The recordings were reviewed. The equipment was tested for malfunction. No malfunction was found. This was not interpreted as proof of anything supernatural by Owen's team. They were rigorous enough to resist that conclusion. But it was documented as unexplained, and that documentation was submitted, circulated, and then quietly absorbed into the archive of things that mainstream science receives and does not respond to. The experiment was replicated, first by Owen's group under modified conditions. The phenomena returned. Then by a second independent group who constructed their own fictional entity, ran their own séances, and produced their own rapping, their own table movement, their own anomalies. 2 replications, controlled conditions, consistent results, and then nothing. No formal review, no institutional analysis, no serious attempt by any university, government body, or scientific organization to either confirm or refute what had been documented on film and in writing in 1972. The footage exists, the reports exist, the replication data exists. What does not exist is any official scientific acknowledgement that the Philip experiment requires an explanation. Parapsychology has always occupied a particular kind of silence. Not debunked, because debunking requires engagement, but ignored, which requires nothing. The Toronto Society for Psychical Research produced evidence that collective human consciousness could interact with the physical world in ways current physics cannot account for. They produced it twice, and the institutions whose entire purpose is to account for the physical world look the other way, with a consistency that is itself a data point. When something is ignored this completely for this long, the question stops being what happened in that room in Toronto. The question becomes why no one official has ever wanted to find out. Here is what they buried. The Philip experiment produced documented, repeatable, physically measurable phenomena from a fictional source. Philip had no history, no grave, no soul. He was invented in an afternoon by a committee of psychologists who wrote him like a character in a novel. And yet, when those same psychologists sat around a table in a controlled room with cameras rolling and equipment monitoring electromagnetic output, something responded. The table moved. It rapped answers to questions only the group knew. It levitated partially off the floor on camera. The electromagnetic readings spiked in ways their own instruments registered, but could not account for. None of that is disputed. The footage exists. The logs exist. The society's own documentation exists. What does not exist is any formal response from the institutions that should have been most interested, the universities, the physics departments, the neuroscience laboratories. They never came. They never reviewed the tapes publicly. They never issued a refutation. They simply looked away. When something cannot be explained and cannot be ignored, the quietest move is institutional silence. That silence is its own confession. What the experiment actually proved may be the most dangerous idea in modern science. Not that ghosts are real in any traditional sense, but that consciousness itself may be capable of generating physical effects independent of any known mechanism. If a group of people can collectively will a measurable phenomenon into existence around a character they invented, then the boundary between mind and matter is not where we were told it is. The implications do not stop at parapsychology. They reach into physics, into neuroscience, into every assumption embedded in the materialist model that has governed Western science for 3 centuries. The experiment was replicated, twice. Different groups, same results. That is the definition of scientific validity, and yet it remains buried in the footnotes of disciplines that refuse to absorb what it means. The question was never whether Philip moved that table. The question is what it means that he did, and why no institution with the resources to answer that question has ever seriously tried. What do you believe happened in that room in 1972? Was it psychokinesis, mass suggestion, something the instruments were never built to measure, or something else entirely? Drop your theory in the comments, and if you want the stories they spent decades hoping you would never find, subscribe, because every week we dig up another one.